Hello, all, and welcome to the Fantasy and Sci-Fi Fanatics podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Coolbaugh. Today, I have a very special guest, Amy Hutchins. Amy, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for asking me to do this.
Yeah, like I said, I've been trying to get somebody in your field for quite a while, but unfortunately, you guys are all really busy because
Hmm.
I found a lot of people are busy because post-pandemic, all those projects got pushed back, which I totally get. But yeah, it's been very hard to get people, in terms of audio media as well as visual as well. I have a couple of directors and actors, actresses, and producers. I have some, there's different people in different fields. Everybody's just so swamped, so it kind of just seems like we're always just getting authors and stuff because they're, usually the ones that are, doing the writing or the forefront stuff, and you guys are doing all the other things, at
That's
the tail
surprising
end.
to
So
me though, because most actors I know would never turn down any kind of self-promotion. So
it's crazy.
that
It's
surprises me.
crazy. Comics writers, in particular, I found artists have been really hard, just artists in general. So I'm really struggling. So if you or anybody else who knows anybody, please send them my way because I've been trying
Yeah.
to interview and I've been getting all these cool offers with students of mine. We're doing a lot of videography stuff and doing a lot of filming, editing and stuff. So they're teaching me a lot of really cool stuff where pretty soon I'll just be able to like do this and something pops up or whatever, or another video enters, and I'm like, I
Yeah.
can do a lot of visual stuff, but I'd love to start doing some artists, or just different people. And it's been
Yeah.
very hard to get different mediums to come on. So yeah, it's kind of
Fascinating.
crazy, but yeah, it's very interesting. I've been told a lot that I'm all full with with slots and stuff. I'm like, well, I don't need art. I'm just trying to help you sell art or whatever, So yeah, it's been very interesting to try and get different fields on here other than just authors and writers. So it's been
Wild.
interesting. Yeah, but I'm really glad to have you on because I feel like I've been trying to talk to somebody in your field. We have a few fields that we'll talk about today. So I've been trying to get
Yeah.
somebody on for a while. So I'm so happy to have you on and be able to ask these questions today. So thank you so much.
Sweet. Thanks for asking. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So your website, which I love, by the way, because I'm a huge website nerd, says you are an actor, accent nerd, and narrator. So, what has your experience in these fields been like so far in your career?
Yeah. So I've been an actor. Gosh, I've been acting professionally since college. I started, I started my freshman year getting equity membership credit points at the
Oh, wow.
Shakespeare Theater of New Jersey.
Oh,
Um,
that's cool.
and it was on the campus of Madison. I went to Drew University. So on the
Oh,
campus of
okay.
Drew University is the Shakespeare Theater of New Jersey. They're not really affiliated with the
Mm,
college, but they invited me to intern there. And just started taking classes with them in the summer and performing in tiny, tiny little parts on their stage. And I kind of worked my way through the ranks. And like I did their apprenticeship. And then my senior year, I did their touring non-union company. Um, Also at the time there was the Playwrights Theater of New Jersey was also on the campus of Drew University, and that they did
oh,
contemporary
okay.
plays. So I also interned with them, and I was in readings, very small parts, or reading stage directions in brand new plays. But I was around professional actors who were from New York because Madison, New Jersey is only like 45 minutes from New York City.
Oh,
So
okay. I didn't
I
realize
got
that.
to meet all these New York City actors and these professionals, and I just fell in love with it. So I studied theater arts. I was a theater arts and a Spanish language and literature double major, and I was this
Oh,
close to
wow.
having a music minor, but I had almost enough credits, and I thought, you know what, Amy, it's fine. You don't need a music minor. A double major is enough. And I did
Yeah,
theater
yeah,
in
yeah.
college, and I did theater in high school. I did dinner theater in high school.
Mm.
In my senior year, I did a production of Gypsy,
Oh, that's
which was like
cool.
my first review I ever got. Because I played three different roles, and the person in the audience the reviewer didn't know that I was the same actor in all three little parts that I did.
That's awesome.
And so they mentioned me in the review, which is just really funny. I grew up in a really small rural area in Maryland.
Mm,
There wasn't really professional theater available
mm.
to me where I grew up, but there was this little dinner theater and there was high school theater. Um, yeah, and so fast forward, I graduated from college. I had some classical theater productions on my resume, and I moved to New York City with some friends from college, and we had a 3-bedroom apartment and in Astoria, and I started auditioning. and it was really uncomfortable. It was really like kind of like, what am I doing here? I'm from rural Maryland. I'd never lived in a city, but like I adapted, and I started instantly getting callbacks and booking things, non-union at first.
Mm.
Um, and then, I did non-union tours, and then I joined Equity. I joined the Actors Union. So I did theater. I did a lot of regional theater, and
Mm.
some New York theater, um, for years. And up until 2019, when my friend Lori Prince, who's an amazing narrator, and actor, she lived in my building at the time, and she was like, Amy, you can make money from audiobooks. You can record them
Mm.
from home, and it supplements your income in between theater gigs. Like, you've got to get into this. So she told me to go to the SAG-AFTRA Foundation's voiceover lab. As a member of Equity and a member of SAG-AFTRA, I can access the SAG-AFTRA Foundation. They have classes for free. These resources are
Oh,
all
wow.
free for people in the union. So
Yeah, yeah.
the SAG-AFTRA Foundation has this amazing voiceover lab in New York City. And in 2019, I just started. I took the orientation. I took classes of like, what equipment do you need? What computer software do you need? How do you record audio? How does it work? What do you need? And I took classes like, technical classes. And I also took like kind of like artistic classes, meaning like, how do you create characters? How is, audiobook narration different from,
Mm.
let's say, other genres of voiceover, like animation or, video games, things like that. So
Yeah, yeah.
in 2019, I took those classes. And for Christmas of 2019, my husband said, and in New York City, this is a big deal in a one-bedroom apartment. He was like, this closet can be yours. This whole closet we can convert into a booth. And that would, like, for New York City, to give up a closet. So, um, so I started to get the equipment. That was like, I used any money I got, or, like from parents or things like that, like any little gift cards. And I bought a little microphone, I bought an interface. Um, I set it up, but I didn't really do much with it until the pandemic happened.
Mm.
Like 4 months later, 3 months later, I lost every single theater job I had.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Everything just stopped. Like, all of my jobs were gone, all of them. Um, Except I was doing some audio drama work, and they were the only ones asking me to, giving me work. It was voiceover work. That was the only work
Mm.
I could get, because all of my theater jobs, they, they'd worked so hard to get,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
were canceled, and the productions weren't later remounted. So I jumped into the booth, and I started learning the software. I use Reaper as my DAW, the digital audio workstation. That's what I used to record. I didn't have an amazing mic, but I had a large diaphragm condenser
Mm.
microphone, not like a USB microphone. I had a real, large condenser microphone, my interface, and I recorded in my closet auditions through ACX, the Audible
Mm.
Creation Exchange. And I started auditioning, and I started getting books, and I started recording audiobooks just because there was no work. And without that stipend that we got, that what was it, the
Mm.
government pandemic insurance,
Yeah, yeah,
without
yeah.
that, my husband's an actor too, a theater actor too.
Oh, okay.
So we we had nothing coming
Yeah,
in.
yeah, yeah.
So it just was like, well, time to, swim or sink. So that's so theater acting is the bulk of what I've done, and I do continue to do theater. Um, so that's the first part of your question, is actor. What's my experience been like? Well, I
Yeah,
have
yeah.
like over 20 years of theater experience. Narrator. Well, I started in 2020 in the spring, and I have 61 titles
Wow.
on Audible now, and they're the ones that are available are all through independent authors. They're all
Mm.
independent projects. Um, And in March of this year, I went to a conference. I went to an audiobook conference called APAC, which is the Audiobook Publisher Association's conference. For the first time in March, I met people in the industry, like publishers and people who work
Oh,
at
that's
production
cool.
houses. And because I was like, wow, there isn't as much work through the ACX independent, the independent work. I wasn't really finding a lot on
Mm.
ACX. it kind of slowed, it kind of dried up a little bit. So I thought I'll go to
Yeah.
this conference, I'll try to meet publishers, people, casting people from production houses, and see. And since then, I've been sending out emails and follow-ups and, doing the thing, doing the networking thing. And I've started getting work through publishers. I'm not allowed to say
Oh,
anything
wow.
about them though until they're
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
released. And none of them are up for pre-order yet. But I've gotten one, two, three, four, five, seven. I've gotten seven, yeah, seven
Oh, wow.
projects. I've recorded two of them. I'm recording the third one right now. And yeah, the rest are happening in like October and November. So
Mm.
yeah, and that's great. Working with publishers is fantastic. I love working with the indie authors, but it's also nice to work with the publishers as well. Yeah. So that's the actor and the narrator part. And then the accent nerd is because in theater, you have to, well, I do a lot of classical theater, but you have to be skilled at dialects. Not everybody is skilled at dialects, but
Yeah, yeah.
I've always taken to it, and I enjoy studying it. I enjoy studying the vowel and consonant substitutions that you have to make depending on which dialect you're doing. I
Yeah.
love it. That's why I call myself an accent nerd, because it actually kind of relaxes me just to be like, today I'm going to learn a Liverpool dialect just for fun, or I'm going to learn a Yorkshire accent just for fun, because I don't know, I just kind of love it. I just kind of love being able to change the way I sound and change my palette, and it's just kind of fun. So anyway, that's the accent nerd part of it. I do a lot of books with lots of dialects, and I've been in plays where I've done characters from London, from Poland, from Ireland, from Wales. So I've had to master those dialects in the shows that I've done. And
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah, so that's the accent nerd. So that's the answer to the first question. Acting,
Oh, that's
accent
cool.
nerd, narrator. And I kind of feel like accents are kind of what sets me apart a little bit from other people, just because I am a nerd about it. I'm not, I wouldn't call myself a specialist, because I don't have like a degree in that, but I
Yeah,
love
yeah,
it.
yeah.
And I'm a nerd, and yeah, it's just fun for me to learn them. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Wow, you said a lot of really cool things there. I'm gonna have to go back and watch this.
I'm
You said
sorry.
so many things. No, 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 it's good because I do this so I can learn. Because here's the thing: is that well, first of all, what I'm hearing from our audience is that, especially if you're an author, an indie author, you need to book Amy right now. So that was one of the main things that I got. But no, it's cool because this is exactly what I want. Because like people like myself, like it's kind of hard, to figure out your audiobook. And, particularly when you're an independent author, when you're really trying to find somebody professional, know somebody's background, and I think that it's really good. This is why I wanted to interview you and other voice actors and,
Yeah,
people in the industry, because, I think it's really important to know, all aspects of it. And even if I can't do that myself, I think it's important, to know what to look for, in somebody like yourself, in terms of quality. And it's the same for, I think, for, cover art and things like that, or
absolutely.
advertisements, you know what I mean? Yeah. So
You
I
want to
just think
deliver a
that,
professional
yeah,
product?
totally. Yeah. Yeah. And
Because
I think
people
it's good
do
knowing
judge a book by their cover, by its cover. People do see a book,
literally.
and yeah, they literally do.
Yep.
And they buy
Yep.
books or audiobooks based on the cover. I mean,
Yep.
or based on like who's narrating them, or I mean, it's
Or the sample. Yeah. Now you can do
the
the sample. And
sample's
I don't think
so
people will
important.
realize that. Yeah. I said this to somebody, I was like, Audible, that's all you have is your JPEG, your blurb, and you have the sample. I was like, so you have to pick somebody that not is just, I had a friend who chose somebody like more famous, and I'm not going to say names in
Right.
terms of, like the Audible community and ACX
Hmm.
or whatever, but like wasn't the best fit for them. They got,
Oh,
a way through it, and then, they like, we're kind of having some creative differences, things like that. And then, they figured it out, but they ended up getting a new narrator instead.
mm,
I think it
hmm,
was right around the pandemic. And
hmm.
the person was like, that's fine. They weren't really into it, things like
Yeah,
that.
it has to be the right
You know,
fit too.
yeah,
Like
totally.
I don't
So
say yes to every book, because
yeah, yeah, yeah,
if I really feel like I don't have a connection to it, I'm not going
yeah,
to do the author it's not
yeah,
going to help me, and it's not going to help the author. Because if I'm
yeah,
not
yeah,
connected to it, the listener isn't going to enjoy it. They're not going to think of
yeah,
me as a good narrator. The author is not going to help the author. So, yeah, I understand like picking a name, but you also have to make sure that that name, and there are so many talented, amazing names, narrators who have a great,
yeah,
background. But even them, they have to connect to the
Yeah.
material.
And I also
So
think you bring up a good point too, is like I think some people like I've had, some voice actors that I've talked to who, I have, they've mentioned to me or to a, mutual friend, they're like, yeah, like somebody was upset that I did, take their project. And, I think that it's also good for us to know as like authors and writers or whoever, to know that it's not a personal thing. It's again, like you said, like, you want to do well with the project. And for both of us, that is a lot of time and money management. And, obviously, because, you're committing to that project. And if you're just like, oh my God, I just need to be done with this, it's like, it's going to take longer. You're not going to get these other projects as quicker, or, it's going to affect the, the quality. And, I think it really hampers all parties, so I think it
absolutely.
is a, is that it's a co-authoring, I talked about a while back. And, I think you'd really, it's just any type of business relationship I think you have for these things, I think it has to be, really strong because these are a lot of hours that, everybody's putting in, you
Oh,
guys
and
especially.
money.
So
Yeah, it's time and money.
yeah,
And
yeah,
also like I I kind of curate my own portfolio of work. Like once I started getting audiobooks through independent authors, I started to see what I enjoyed narrating and what I wanted to do more of. And honestly, if the cover wasn't good, the book cover, it didn't really matter how great the book was because people would, casting people, people would kind of judge me if they look at my
yeah.
portfolio and all they see are not great covers and not, it just,
Well,
and
because
it's
you're
unfortunate.
associated with that product. Yeah,
Exactly. And it's
yeah,
unfortunate. So there was a point, and if you scroll through my Audible, like chronologically from new to old, there's a shift. There's a clear shift when I decided to prioritize um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
a certain type of book. And I don't mean to be snobby about it. It's literally, um, yeah. But I was trying to curate a portfolio. So anyway,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
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 And I've
And
actually
I have
told
people.
audiobook. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. I've
No,
actually
no, go
told
right ahead, right?
authors, like people who like it's their first audiobook and they want to hire me and I like the book, but I really feel like they need a better cover because I want
Yeah.
them to sell this audiobook. If they're going to spend so much money to make it, money they don't have as independent new authors,
Uh,
I want the audiobook to sell, not for my sake, but I want them to recoup what they're
yeah, yeah, yeah.
spending. Anyway, so it's just it's interesting. It's yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have people all the time, and they ask me to read something and like and I'm not trying to be condescending, and my stuff needs plenty of work. I've been going over this Kindle Vella series over and over and over and over again. And I'm also trying to pre-prep it to be like seasons of a TV show on Kindle
Ooh.
Vella, and then I'll print it as an anthology. Yeah. So like every 10 episodes it's its own season. So I'm really writing it out like way ahead of time, to do certain things to get
Mm-hmm.
people coming back. But I'm also pre-planning for someone like yourself to do the narration. And,
Yeah.
and I tried telling somebody, I'm like, I can't. They're like, well, why don't you just put it out there? I'm like, I'm an independent author. I'm like, I'm trying to take time for the product. I said, I'm thinking of not the front end, I'm thinking of the back end of this product. And, and I am really taking my time to save the money to, get the best logo image as well, because
Mm-hmm.
a big part of that's going to sell the Kindle Vella. And then it's going to go into, it has to also be a bigger part of, I think, of the actual book cover. So I
Mm-hmm.
think, we take the two characters, but then everything else is a really good cover. So I'm like, well, I really want to take time because then I don't want to have to, produce two covers. So I'm like, I'm just going to do one and then try and have somebody center it. So I'm doing a lot of pre-planning.
That's so
But I
smart.
said I was, well, and I'm like, this is a business to me, and is it fun? Is it great? Yeah, but like, I look at it as, this is a lot of time and money and energy, and if I'm gonna do it, I want to do it right. But I was just talking to my econ kids about, I'm like, you really have to think, about the front end and the back end. I said,
Mm-hmm.
that's a problem with a lot of people. And I have people come to me all the time. They're like, can you read this? Can you look at this cover? Can you see this? And I'm like, sure. But I was like, I'll be nice about it. But I'm like, I'm going to tell you exactly what I think from, a business standpoint, because I'm considering you coming to me, as a fellow, business person. And I'm going to tell you, I had a couple of people do their own audio books, which is totally fine. I said, but you want to, like you said, you want to take some classes, you want to talk to some people in the industry. You don't want to just go into your car and just start doing it or,
Oh
wherever.
yeah.
I'm like, and like you have way more training than most people, in your field, let alone, somebody like me. So, I'm just trying to get people to understand that you really, if you're going to do these things, like I am doing years of, like I used to draw my own stuff, right? And
Hmm.
I have a lot of art background and stuff, but now things are way different, so I have to relearn digital art. I have to learn some of the
Yes.
updated things. So it's going to probably take me 10 years to do my own cover at least, or advertisement. You know what I mean? But like
Right.
I try to tell people like, well, why do it? I'm like, because eventually it'll save me some money, and then hopefully I can make enough to then get better people to do X, Y, and Z. But I'm trying to explain to them like there's a classical training that needs to happen, in terms of that. And I just think some people don't think about that or really think about the end product. So I just want to say to the audience, like, don't take it personally if you're an author and somebody like Amy is like, oh no, I'm not going to do that because again, you have to be really selective because it's different. It's different than being an author, and you guys have to be very selective, with your choices because again, like you said, it's your portfolio and you're gonna be judged off of that. So,
Which is
certain
harsh. I
covers
mean,
just aren't gonna make it.
because I
It's
don't want
just
to
it's just
hurt
the
people's
market though.
feelings. I don't want
Yeah.
because I know that this is their book baby and I know
Yeah.
that they care so much about it. And
Yep.
yeah. So, and sometimes I won't do it because of content or,
Yeah,
it's just not a
totally.
genre,
Yep.
yeah. So it's not only that. I don't mean to come off as like a snob or something,
Well,
but
but I talked to my wife about this. I consider it like, because we talked to a buddy of mine about this because, somebody said they don't want to be on my podcast. And I was like, I don't take it personally, and I don't know exactly what the issue was, but they're like, oh, it just doesn't fit with my image or something. And I'm like,
all right.
it's fine. I'm like, that's totally fine. But, and I didn't take it personally. I tend to have a very open mind, I guess would say. I want this to be a very inclusive community. So I was like, okay. So I was like, maybe I need to be more inclusive. Like, I don't know. I didn't really know, but I didn't take it personally, but I just kind of was like, I've just tried in the future, to get more people to say yes, and make it more of something that more people want to do. So I just took it as
Yeah.
kind of a creative criticism or whatever. I still don't know what the issue was, but nobody else after that has said, that in terms of authors. So it was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But I just think my wife, she's like, well, it's kind of like, did you really want to marry the two previous women before me that you were thinking? I was like, probably not, you know what I mean? And I was like, that's a good point. Like sometimes you really need to think like, those other opportunities that are lost, I think really lead you to a better opportunity or better people, not in terms of better as in like, if you pass it up there, someone else takes it, they're a better voice actor, but better in terms of, the project or the relationship or the interests. So I think that
Yeah.
makes total sense. But
Yeah.
yeah. We're like getting really good stuff on a Tuesday here. I like it.
I hope I'm not being
Oh,
too like, I don't know. I don't want any blowback from this. So.
no, 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 no. Well, I just want to go over the cover thing again too, because we brought it up a couple times the last couple of interviews, and
Oh, really?
and yeah, and I am trying to find a nice way to say like we just so I'm just gonna put it out there like we just had to pay for a new AC. It's like almost
I
$6,000.
know.
But I
Yeah.
have a baby, and it's been hot and cold and whatever. And it's like then we had last year we paid for a new furnace. So all my book money. This is why I'm doing Kindle Vella. And I just want to point this out because all of a sudden it was like there was nothing to do, you know? And I was
Yeah.
like, I can't pay for edits. I can't pay for
Yeah.
covers. I'm like nothing. I have nothing. I have a baby. I have nothing,
Mm-hmm.
for extra income. My stores for cover art editing is all gone. I got like maybe 350 left, And I'm like,
Wow.
I'm not about to put a little Kindle Vella cover together with 350, you know what I mean?
I
And I'm
know.
like, I'd rather just wait,
Mm-hmm.
take my time. And I'm finding creative ways to do things, but not the cover. I'm sending it to author friends of
And that is
mine
like the
who
biggest thing because
you know,
people will buy something based off the cover. They will make
yep.
judgments based off the cover. It's like,
Yeah.
and I don't even do book cover art. I don't know anything about what goes into it, or I just know that people do judge a book by its cover, and it's
It's
unfortunate, but
60%, it's
they do.
65% of the advertisement is your book cover. And,
Yeah,
and people have to like the cover before they turn your physical book over to get to the blurb, and
exactly.
I just don't, or to open up the book and,
Hmm.
and to find your blurb. I just want to point that out because I think it's just such a good point. And, that's where some people ask me about, I'm like, I'm just taking my time, and people
Hmm.
are like, well, you should do a Kickstarter. I'm like, that's great and all. I'm like, but I really need to still generate something, so that's where I'm switching gears and I've switched to Kindle Vella,
Hmm.
for my first series. And I'm just being patient. And as an indie author, because I really know that I'm making a splash at a particular time and I'm like rapid releasing. But I just think that people need to think like, yeah, you get this baby and you want to get it out there, but you also want to get it out there appropriately.
Yes.
And even if you have a great cover, again, it might not be something that, you are into, or might, like you said, it might be, time constraints, like all sorts of things. So
Yeah, there are all
I
kinds of
think it's
things that
just
go
good to
into
know.
it, and,
Yeah. Or
and
your other
ultimately, you
projects,
have to be c connected to it. You have to
Yeah.
feel a connection to it, otherwise
Yep.
you're not the right narrator for the project, and I
Yep.
understand because, like, as an artist, I mean, it all comes down to money. Like, it all meaning, like, it's so tight. As a creative, no one ever wants to pay creatives. They think that we should just, like, be
Yeah.
happy
Like
that we're just
live off
getting to
air.
do the
Yeah.
work, and
Yep.
so many people ask you to do the work for free, and they ask you like, and they make assumptions, oh, you should just be grateful. What, you shouldn't have to get paid if you're doing something that you love, and it's like, but that's what I do. I'm an actor. It's the only job I have. Like, I don't have
Yep.
another job. Like, and so money is, you want to be smart and you want to budget. And I've worked for like many independent authors, and this one author had great success. She was great at marketing, and she had a marketing background. And so
Mm.
those books took off because she invested it in the book covers and the marketing. And I couldn't
Yep.
believe her first book, how it took off in this series, and the subsequent series, and what was different about it. Yeah, it's a great story. It's a great story, but man, she was gung ho with the marketing, and it worked. Like, she put in a lot of
Yeah.
money, but it paid off. Like, it returned to her. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, you just have to. It does. Money is a big deal in the creative community because I know that indie authors, most of them don't have it. So that's why there are
Yeah. Yeah.
things like royalty share or royalty share plus. I just did a book that was royalty share plus because
Mm.
I it's a fantasy book. I really liked it. It had an amazing cover. I knew it would sell, and the author has a huge base. She's
Mm.
got tons of people she emails, tons of people on social media, and I thought, well, this book is going to sell. I'm going to
Yeah. Yeah.
recoup what I all the time it took to record this for
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
week. I'm going to get this back. So I did do a royalty share plus, and she is an indie
Oh, that's
author,
smart.
and the plus part of royalty share is if it's $100 per finished hour, that's like the plus part. So it's royalty share plus $100 per finished hour, then I can get health and pension, even though I won't get the $100. $75 of that is going to go to my audiobook engineer, who's going to proof, edit, and master everything. I'll see $25 per finished hour. But what's most important is I'll get pension and health, the SAG-AFTRA pension and health from that payment. So if you do royalty share plus, it can open up a whole other community of narrators you might not be able to afford, you
Mhm.
know? So, because normally the union minimum is $250 per finished
Mm.
hour for raw audio. That's the
Oh,
union
okay.
minimum. And then I have well, I mean, people can do their own. They can learn how to edit, how to proof edit and master their own audiobooks. I find a professional does it better, like a professional audio
Yeah.
engineer does it better, and it frees up time for me to do more books to narrate because I'm interested in narrating, not proofing, editing, and mastering. I can do it. I
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
done it, but so yeah, so royalty share plus is an interesting option if you want people who are established union narrators. It really only works if you know if the narrator knows they're going to get their money back, meaning
Gotcha.
because you're kind of like doing it for free. But yeah, so that is a budget conscious option. Um,
Mm.
yeah, if you know the book's going to
Well, it's
sell.
interesting.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
there are
Yeah.
things you can do. Also, I know you said you didn't want to do a Kickstarter, but like some authors, when they have an outcry for an audiobook, and the author's like, look, this is my first book. I don't have the money to have a professionally produced audiobook. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
then they'll put together a Kickstarter so that they can hire a professional narrator, and then
Yeah.
everybody's
Yeah.
happy. The people who love the audiobooks, because there is a community of people who love audiobooks, and they've
Yeah.
trained their
Yeah.
ears. And if they hear someone who's not very good, they're not going to listen to
Yeah.
it.
Totally.
And if you're going to
Yep.
spend all this money to produce it, you want it to be something that people listen to. So
Yeah. 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 Well, that's like, like in terms of, I know people are like, they're like, Dan talks about Kickstarters all the time. So it's like my first book, like there's just like a couple things where like I'm actually trying to, I guess I should be clear because this is like kind of like an ongoing conversation we've had with people. So like I'm trying to wait to pay for my a couple things for my Kindle Bella series.
Right.
Um, to then do a Kickstarter later. I guess right now, like I'm under because people are gonna be like, you just said you were gonna do X, Y, and Z, and then now you're going back. So what I'm doing actually is I'm just trying to save a little bit more.
Hmm.
And I'm hoping to actually hire. I'm actually hoping to hire either Sean T. King or Felix Ortiz to do my cover for book one. It's up there, but but they're again, you want the best of the best. You need to, you need to pay for it because these guys are amazing. People like yourself, and I just think it's important to to try and start that process early. So I'm hoping to have the cover onto Kickstarter to get the money first for some other things. And this is where I just want to mention it with some people here with just like creative engineering of your career or, production line, and
Hmm.
I'm trying to then get that first cover done so that then once we get the Kickstarter going, we kind of already, are kind of like people are gonna say, oh man, that's an amazing cover that, one of them or somebody like them did and then it kind of goes in because I like to have the cover earlier because I've noticed some people at Kickstarter they have those later and they'll switch a cover. I'm like, but again, we just said right, cover's important. So people are like, well, why
Yeah,
aren't you doing the Kickstarter? I'm like, or if I, if I have you, like I feel like I really need at least something, financially to get you into the project to then get a good sample to put on with the cover. You know what I mean? And like I've seen people with the audio where they did it themselves, like, well, I'm gonna get this person. I'm like, but you just put up a trailer of yourself reading it,
I know.
not Amy. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah,
think
and
that
that's
the
okay.
Kickstarter is like,
Sometimes
yeah, yeah,
author
it's fine.
reads
Yeah,
are
yeah,
fun, and they're
yeah, yeah,
because
yeah,
they
yeah, yeah,
maybe they speak a little faster than a narrator would,
yeah,
but
yeah,
like you
yeah.
get some connection to it, you get some excitement.
Yep.
I'm not bashing author reads. I think,
No, 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 no.
um,
But to say
yeah.
that, like with the cap, I saw someone do that, like then like they hired somebody later, and then I was like, would you?
Oh, right. They
You know
hired
what I
someone later,
mean? I'm
right?
like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I'm like, you didn't put the sample up, so it didn't do as well. And then that
Right.
audio narrator was like, ooh, they did the sample, and then they're like, ooh, and then the Kickstarter didn't, it didn't get succeeded, and get fulfilled. And
Oh,
I'm like, but that was just a front end thing, that I said, even if you had just talked to that narrator, I said, you guys might have been able to like you were talking, might have been able to figure something out and just
yeah.
plan the Kickstarter a little better. So I've like talked to some people recently and I'm like really trying to pre-plan a lot of things for the Kickstarter. Because like if I'm gonna have you, for instance, I would get Felix to do like let's say to do my cover ahead of time, and I would pay him or whatever. Then I would just pay myself back for the Kickstarter. But I would also for the audiobook, I would also want to do the same thing for you, and then just use the Kickstarter to pay myself back. So that's
Yeah.
kind of more my thinking in terms
Yeah.
of like a business aspect. But I just want to point out to people that again, if you for book covers for Kickstarter or whatever, because I've seen people switch three or four covers on a Kickstarter
Mm,
and then barely make it or not make it. I'm like, you really got to put up the cover, that you're going to give to people. You really, if I just think if you're going to say that, Hutchins is going to do the narration, that the sample, like you need to get paid for it and do it, but that the sample should be you because again, it's all about premise, like you're saying, I'm going to give you this product and then don't. And it's like, I don't know. I've seen a lot of them fail recently because
oh,
of
fascinating.
um yeah, silly things like that. Not silly, but just not well thought out. So
Yeah,
I'm
it
like
does
trying
need
to
to
do the
be. It's
opposite.
true. I have a friend
Yeah.
who, for a short film, what was so great was she had the team together first. She had
Mm.
the cover, the like the logo, like the whole idea of it, even before she had shot anything, to fund this,
Smart.
yeah, just this short film.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it was very it was very well packaged and very well thought out, the Kickstarter, and so it actually really, really worked because they really planned it. Like,
Yep.
they made people want it. They made people want that,
Yeah, yeah.
to see that film, to create that film, to have that made,
Yep.
and so if you have a book cover to latch onto and a narrator to latch onto, and you can say, "Let's make this happen,"
Yep.
and I wanna help indie
Yeah, yeah.
authors, you know, because you don't have people promoting you. It's all
Yeah.
self-generated. So if I can
Yeah.
help amplify, like I did live narration of a book on TikTok with the author's
Oh,
permission,
that's cool.
and it was so much fun. It was so much fun, and then
That's
she
awesome.
listened to little snippets of it. She would, like, kind of come in and just, like she was, like, peeking and listening to the live narration, and it was a working session. I wasn't, like, really chatting or anything. I was, like, literally just recording it and letting people watch on TikTok, and
Oh, that's
so I got,
cool.
like, 150 new followers, and I had a
Oh, that's
little thing
awesome.
up the whole time I was doing it. It said, you know, this book will be it had the book cover, and it was like, "This book will be released in October. Um, please follow Natalie Wright, author,"
Oh,
and
that's
I
cool.
and I so and I think that's great, if she gave me permission to do the whole book, so I was like, "Well, I'm gonna be recording it anyway. I can record it with, my phone, like,
Yeah, yeah,
sitting
yeah.
somewhere while I do it
That's
streaming on
smart.
TikTok while I and it was surprisingly fun for me. It kinda tapped into my theater background, meaning are you really telling a story
That's
if there's no
fair.
if there's no audience? Like, how do you tell a story
Yeah,
without an
yeah,
audience? So, because for me, the missing character in a play is the audience, and it doesn't feel like
yeah.
you
Mhm.
have a play until that first preview or that dress rehearsal, you know? Um,
Yeah.
so with TikTok, it was cool. It just people would kinda hang out maybe for 30 seconds, maybe for, like, an hour, and they would comment, and then I'd take, like, a quick water break, and I would see if anybody said anything, and and I would respond to people really quickly as I was, like, drinking my water, and then I go right back into work. And I
Oh,
flew
that's
through
cool.
it too. I think just because I knew people were there. I wasn't just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
recording in my booth alone, talking to myself, letting perfectionism get the best of me. And I was so surprised because the author loved it. She was like, "It's great." She's like, "Your performance didn't suffer at all from streaming at the same time." Like, it was so yeah. So if I can help with self-promotion, I mean, help with, the book's promotion in whatever way, I'm happy
Yeah,
to do
yeah.
that, if I have the author's
Just
permission.
See, and that's just like I just was talking about something there because I'm trying to get people to realize I'm like, why, because I had somebody they're like, oh, they said something at the end for the promo, and they're like, oh, this is gonna come out after my promo is ended. I go, no, just talk about the promo. I'm like, I'll just cut the audio and the video together and we'll just make our own promo now and I'll just put it everywhere. I said, only take a few, you know what I mean? I was like, why recreate the wheel? It's like, oh, should we
Right.
re-record something? I go, no, just take it right from this. I was like, don't worry about it. I go, just talk. And and that's what we did. We did two advertisements, kind of right in the interview. So I'm just taking those and then, I'm putting them on YouTube and then I'll put them on TikTok and,
That's
and
genius.
on Instagram, yeah, and I 'cause I'm trying to tell people I'm teaching it right now to my kids, for seniors. I'm like, why if you're already gonna be there, like, we had a field day, and we're trying to get more people to come to our school, because it's not charter school, it's like an alternative school for kids that really wanna do technology as well. So I
Oh,
teach
cool.
social studies and teach them, yeah, like, through technology, so we do, like, 3D printing, like, we have a Wazer, like, all sorts of cool things, like a Glowforge, all these cool things, do a lot of audio, we're doing podcasts, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, I'm trying to get people to come here, and I'm like, "Guys," I'm like, "We already had an event that was really fun and really cool." I go, "Why not just have you guys take video and photos, and instead of having to recreate something fun, we're just doing it," And they're like,
Yes.
"Oh, that makes sense," and we're doing a new website for our school. So I'm like, "You wanna, 2 birds, 1 stone," and I'm telling so
Exactly.
what you guys were doing is exactly such a good example that I'm gonna use tomorrow for my
Good,
class, but
yeah.
it's such a good example of you're already doing it, why not just add it? Like,
Yeah,
people
and
are
so
like,
now I
"Oh, we
have
have
people who are
your."
excited about, like, Season
Yeah.
of the Dragon. They're like, "Oh, I can't wait for
Yeah,
Season
yeah,
of the
yeah.
Dragon to come out," and it's like,
It's such good
"Cool."
cross-pollination between your skills and hers and, get you guys
Yeah,
both new followers. I mean, we talk about
exactly.
it all the time. I'm like, "Why don't we just do more of that?" So, yeah, I think that just makes more sense. I think that's really cool. Now you got my mind whirling a little bit trying
Yeah, so
to think of
there are
some
things
things.
that you
That's
can
cool.
do that don't cost money to promote your book and to
Yep.
get people to know
Totally.
about it. So then
Yep.
that's why you should save your money for something really important that will hook
Yeah, yeah,
people
yeah,
and
yeah.
make them buy it, you know?
Yep.
So, yeah.
No, totally. Yeah, well, I know some people are doing, like, the book trailers, and I'm like, "That's great." I was like, but I'm just saying, the ones that I've seen that have done the best have had somebody talking, and it's somebody other than like, people hired a narrator, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, "So you" one of my friends, he goes, "So I put down" I think he did, like, 750 or something. I mean, it was, like, a quick one. He's like, "Well, it was a little pricey, but I mean, the narrator was fabulous, and they did such a good job with the trailer." They didn't have that much to say, but, like, it was, like, a really great product, and the person they
Yeah.
had was so cool. You talk about a fantasy world, and the guy sounded kind of like Ian McKellen,
Oh,
and it
yeah.
was just, you know what I mean? It was just,
Something that makes
it
people
was,
wanna just want the product. They're like, they hear it and they
everybody
go,
was
"I want
sharing
that."
it. Yep. Yep. It was amazing. It was
See?
amazing.
And that's when you
Yeah,
get
it
your
was
money
super
back,
cool.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
So
and then so he plugged both of them, and like really plugged him, and then I know that guy, that narrator, was able to then, get some other things, because he
yeah.
had just kind of started and stuff. But it was like, it was a couple years ago that they did it now, and it feels like yesterday because I had a kid. But yeah, it was just so interesting, But I've seen other people just try and put images or pictures together with just words, and it doesn't have as, I think, as much of a flavor to it as, would a narrator. But I've seen it done really well. And he's like, yeah, I mean, he made it all in sales, back like very, very quickly. And I mean, I told him, I was like, dude, that's gotta be one of the coolest book trailers I've ever seen. Like,
And you want people
and
talking about that, right? And
yeah, and
sharing it.
everybody,
Yeah.
everybody was sharing it. Yeah. And I think that's when I first got into TikTok actually, was because people were sharing that. And I was like, oh, I just gotta see. Because he put a trailer of the trailer on there and a couple clips and things. And then he had like an unveiling and everything,
Oh,
and like
yeah, building
released
up
the trailer.
anticipation. It's
Yep,
so
yep, it
smart.
was
That's
super
so
cool.
smart. Yeah.
Yep. Like I
So
have
there's
a
a lot you can
gaming
do. Social
bar.
media is huge.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
social
yeah. Well, I have
media
like
is
a
like yeah.
yeah, I have a gaming bar that, sorry, my audio cut out. I have a gaming bar I used to work at, and they do live events for free.
What's a
So
gaming
um
bar?
oh man, it's so fun.
What?
So you go and they have specific board games and stuff that you can pick. They have like a menu. Yep.
Oh,
It's so cool. It's
and
so
there are
cool.
alcoholic drinks as well?
Yep,
Yeah.
along with that like kind of tailored to certain games and things, and they'll have certain game nights, and it's so now it's
Oh,
cool. So they'll do an event. So an author got a hold of me recently, and I actually have to reschedule our interview, because he got really busy. But he got a hold of me. He's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be here for this event," and I was like, "I'm trying." So I went to the event, but it was a little later than I thought. And my son was like, "No, I need dad home." So I had to go, and I was like, "Well, I can interview you because we're gonna do a live interview." I was like, well, I can interview you at another date, and then we can talk about this event. But it was so cool. He had like coasters that he made for the event that had his QR code and were his book cover. And they didn't cost. I
oh.
looked them up. You could get like a sleeve of like 1,000 for like $15, and
Seriously? That's
it's
amazing.
really nuts. It's nuts. It's nuts. And I'm like, oh my
Oh,
God. So I told my buddy, I said, I'm so gonna do that. And then,
yeah.
he invited people in town, friends and family. And I'm like, that's genius. I'm like, and I saved his coaster. I'm like, that's so smart. And
Yeah.
there's just so many cool things I've seen people do like that recently where I'm like, why not? Like
Yeah, you just have to, like,
I
really be
saw
inventive. Yeah.
yeah, I just but I think it's good again where like if I hadn't have interviewed you, I wouldn't have thought of, having a narrator do that, because you're already paying for the service. It's like why not just get a little out of it, extra out of it for
Exactly.
both people. So I think
Yeah.
that's really smart.
'Cause I got more followers, she got more followers, and I was gonna work anyway. I was gonna be recording it anyway, and it
Yeah, why
actually
not?
made me record a little faster. I didn't speak faster, but I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
having an audience and, like, n made me a little more hyper-focused, so I didn't make as many mistakes when I was just knowing people. It was like that theater background just kicking in, like,
Mm.
I
Yeah, yeah.
made fewer mistakes. I stopped less frequently, and I asked my engineer, I was like, "Is this just terrible audio? Like, do you have to, like, paste over with room tone noises or anything?" And he was like, "No, Amy, it was fine. I didn't hear a difference at all." And I was like,
Yeah, yeah.
wow, because I was normally I'm 2 to 1, 2 hours in the booth to 1 finished hour, and I was almost like 1.5 hours in the booth to 1 finished hour.
Wow.
'Cause, like, and
Wow.
I came out of the booth and I was like, "I'm done," and he was like, "What?" I was still gonna watch, like, another 2 TV show, like, programs
Yeah,
before
yeah, yeah.
I thought you'd be done, because I flew through that book, but yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, live
That's so
narration is
so
fun.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just so interesting because that I feel like that for you could be like your thing, with like different authors, be like, hey, this worked really well, and then it's just, both audiences keep growing. I mean, that's
Yeah.
just I don't know, that's super cool.
My
Yeah.
other books, the books I did right after that one have been books with publishers, and publishers are the exact opposite. You have to sign these, confidentiality agreements, and you can't say a thing about the books. Like, I can't say anything about the books that I'm doing. But with independent authors, you're helping them. But these publisher books,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, I have to sign and not say a thing. I can say something when it's up for pre-release, and that's it.
Yeah, yeah.
So I wish I could do live narration for those because it's just I discovered it and then it was taken away from me and I couldn't do it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'm still
Well, it's
having a
always
lot of fun, but
yeah. It's always fun because like when I have somebody like Scott Drakeford was on for Rise of the Mages that he wrote for Tor, and so like he can't talk about book two. He goes, it's done, but I can't talk about it. It's been done for a year and a half, but the pandemic, blah blah blah. And I was like, well, that's
Yep.
just good to know that it's done. So now I tease all the authors. I go, because like Indy and I have some other people, that asked me, and I was like, well, I was like, do you have a secret project you can't talk about? So that's like the newest thing is people are like, yeah, 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 I got a secret project. And one author, she goes, well, I have a secret project, but I'm working on something. I go, just say that. I'm like, it's still a secret if you even from yourself. But that's because a lot of traditional authors that come on and and said, because they can't talk about it.
Nope. Mm-mm.
So it's really interesting. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's really funny.
Yeah. It's like not at all,
Hilarious.
or please help me promote the book. It's like
Yeah,
all or
yeah, yeah.
nothing, depending on who you're working for, a narrator's working for. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it's super funny. Oh man. So we talked about quite a bit. We kind of talked. I felt like I didn't
I
want to
know I didn't
stop
stick
us
to
or
the
kind of
questions. I
no,
hope your
I
audience doesn't
but
mind.
no, the thing is like I feel like people when we have a good conversation, and people been around a while, they know me. If we have a good conversation going, I'm not gonna stop it. Like HC Newell and I 2 episodes ago, like we were just going, and I'm like, oh, it's fine. I didn't have anything after, and then we went over like about 10 minutes, but I was like, I felt like it was like really good stuff. And I don't ever want to stop somebody. I feel like
Right.
we talked about a
Well,
lot of good things, and
do you want me to
again,
answer
like I
any
said.
questions quickly? I could do like a quick round where I just answer
No,
in little
that'd be great
snippets.
actually. I was actually really curious, in terms of maybe some, if you don't mind, or if you can
Mm-mm.
say,
Mhm.
maybe some favorite characters or roles you've done recently, of things that maybe have already come out, if you're allowed to talk
Sure.
about them. Or...
Yeah. So the very first book that I ever did was The Magicians of Venice by Amy Quivalainen. And it's
Oh,
this
cool.
really fun romantic fantasy book series. And the publisher said I would do all three. And then I did the first one and it was great. And then it was my very first book. So, but I thought it was great, and I got some nice little reviews on it. And he didn't ask me to do the second one, and I found out the second book was being made, and I was like, "Why?" So I reached out to him, and I was like, "Hi, I wanted to do it. I love these books." And he was like, "Oh, I assumed you'd say no because they hadn't really started to take off, and because it was royalty share,
Mm,
it hadn't really started to take off, and I thought you would say no." And I was like, "Oh, I love these books so much, and it was my first book, and I miss these. I love these characters so much."
yeah, yeah.
And he's like, great, do book three. And I was like, I'll do book three. And so I came back just this
Oh, that's
year
cool.
to do book three, royalty share out of my own pocket. But I love this author, and it's a nostalgic thing because I did the first book. So,
Yeah, yeah.
Magicians of Venice by Amy Quivalainen, and I did The King's Seal by Amy Quivalainen, and that's book three. And my favorite character is Marco Dandolo. He's a Venetian detective, and he's trying to quit smoking, and he's like grumpy, and he's surly, and he just tickled me so much. And the protagonist is this Australian archaeologist, and she's amazing. And so the two of them, they don't have a romantic connection, but I just
Mm,
fell in love with his Venetian grumpiness, and
yeah,
it's so
yeah.
silly. And it was so nice to come back to that character because I recorded it in 2020, in like August of 2020, and then to do book three, that was just I guess in the spring of this year,
Mm.
April 2023. So it was really fun. It felt like coming home to this family of crazy magicians who live in Venice that I had created, and I got to come back to them. So
Oh, that's
yeah.
awesome. That's super cool. It's funny that you mentioned that because I actually have book one on my TBR pile
Oh
on
yeah,
Amazon. It had came up for something similar, and I was like, I looked at it, I was like, that sounds kind of cool. And
it's a really
anytime
fun
there's
book
a
series.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
anytime
I
there's an
love Amy Quillen.
archaeologist, I'm like done. So I added that. So that's funny. I actually
Yeah.
just discovered, I think like a month or two ago. Yeah, so that's really cool. That's really funny.
Archaeological thrillers, yeah. I've done some archaeological thriller series. I'm currently doing the
Oh,
Adrian
that's
West
cool.
series by L.D. Goffigan, and
Oh,
I
that's
did the entire
cool.
Belial, almost the entire Belial series by R.D. Brady, and they're both
Oh,
those
okay.
archaeological thrillers. So
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Okay. Well, you just sold
a
a
lot
couple
of
audiobooks there.
research. Well, I don't get a kickback from those, but
I'm
but
just saying
Magicians in
either
Venice.
way.
No, it's great. I love them. I'm happy to help them. Yeah,
Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's awesome. That's really good to know.
a lot of dialects in
And I,
those, and a
yeah,
lot of
yeah, I was
words
gonna
to
say,
a lot of pronunciation research in those archaeological
yeah, yeah, yeah.
thrillers. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, that's
Yeah.
super cool. Well, I was curious, before we get done here, like at the tail end, last like 5 minutes or so, what was one major obstacle that you had to overcome in terms of like your career?
Um, I have alopecia, and I developed
Mm,
androgenic alopecia in my 20s. And as an actor on stage, that really kind of freaked me out because I was like auditioning for all these beautiful roles, and to have
mm,
alopecia with your hair thinning and trying to figure out that solution was really challenging. And it really kind of shook me a bit because, you get cast based on how you look as a theater actor,
yeah,
and
yeah.
especially like playing like young ingenues. And that was really tricky for me, trying to figure out how to deal with it. And ultimately, I finally just kind of like came out of the closet, and I started like, wearing hair, and or first I tried to cover it up, and then
Mm,
I did all kinds of things. And finally I just realized, just be authentic, just tell people. You don't have to hide. And so that was a crazy obstacle because it affected my looks. It didn't really affect my health, but it
yeah,
affected my
yeah,
looks, and it therefore
yeah,
it
yeah.
made me less castable because I didn't have like gorgeous long hair. And so now I can just buy whatever hair I want. And but it's great. Like I just had to let that go because it caused a lot of anxiety for me, worrying, oh, did I not get that part because of how I look because my hair is really thin? And you know what I mean?
I
It
I totally do actually, because I have
yeah.
a thyroid uh problem. I don't know if you can tell,
Oh,
but I have my skin's discoloring
yes.
everywhere. So
Yes.
my skin underneath is like I wear a beard because my skin just looks awful. It looks like I got too like really like burned, but just it's very like noticeable.
Yeah. It makes you
Yeah, so I totally
self-conscious.
get it. Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so
My
to
son all the
be
time's like playing with
oh, he
my
probably
skin
loves
and
it
stuff.
because
He
that's
knows.
you.
He
Yeah.
does, yeah. But yeah. It made me feel better about it, I have to say, but it was
Right?
rough there for a little bit. I was just like, oh, there's not much you can do about it. So
Right?
I totally
Yeah,
get
like the,
that.
the day I
Yeah.
shaved my head and was like, I'm never going to run through my hair again and just have it come out in clumps. The day I shaved my head, I felt great. I felt like free and liberated. I haven't shown anybody other than like my husband or like family members, but like no one's
Yeah.
seen it really. I haven't like debuted it, but for me at least, I feel free of it, and yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it helps. It helps.
My wife,
Anyway.
when I shaved, I messed up at a wedding, so I had to shave. And that was the last time. I think that was 4 years ago. It was the last time I, like didn't have a beard. But now you can tell because of my hair on top, my skin underneath is
Yes.
definitely more affected. So she goes, "Oh, you
Oh,
should shave." I go, "No." I was like, I'm not ready to like
right.
kind of see it. But
I
yeah, so
understand
I
that a
totally
million.
understand that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Fascinating.
I'm right
Yeah.
there with you. Yeah, it's interesting. Well, that's a really good one, though. I think that I just always like obstacles. I started thinking about it recently, so we've been asking a lot of people because I have so many kids. They're like asking me, and I'm like, this little obstacle, and then they'll just stop. I'm like, you can't.
Mm-mm.
I'm like, you have great things to do and accomplish. I'm like, and there's going to be worse things that are popping up in your life later on. Unfortunately, or already have. That you have to overcome to do those great
Yeah.
things. So I think that talking about obstacles, I think, is always a really good one. And there's adults too. I think that forget, that all of us are dealing with obstacles and
Every
incoming,
single one of us. Yeah.
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 Um, but I wanted just to also just real quick ask you, do you have any advice for other actors trying to break into the book or audio
Hmm.
drama market?
Yeah. So if you're a SAG-AFTRA or equity member, if you're a member of either equity or SAG-AFTRA and you're an actor, go to the SAG-AFTRA Foundation Voiceover Lab. It is the best resource. It is free. Also free is the Narrator's Roadmap, narratorsroadmap.com. It's run by someone named Karen Commons, and she just has compiled an amazing resource for people who are just starting out. So it
Oh, that's
has all
cool.
the information of like, what digital audio workstation should I use? What DAW should I use? What microphone should I get? How do I start? Where are auditions? Who are casting people? Like it
Oh,
answers
that's
all
awesome.
of those questions. So the Narrator's Roadmap, and if you're a member of the union, the SAG-AFTRA Foundation Voiceover Lab. They have one in LA and they have one in New York. And because since the pandemic, they also offer virtual classes.
Oh,
So
that's really
it's a
cool.
fantastic resource.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
super cool. I'm jealous because like we don't have that. Maybe us authors should unite and create that.
Right? A union, an
Yeah.
author union.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I was just talking to somebody about that. They're like, "Yeah, this doesn't affect us." I'm like, "Well, first of all, I go, it affects people." I said, "I consider myself a person." So I was like, "I feel like it affects me when somebody, can't get enough to eat or pay for their insurance." It just so happens I have friends that are actors and writers, and I'm
Yeah.
like, who are in these associations, and I'm like, not everybody gets paid the same that Brad Pitt does, and a
Oh
lot
my
of people
gosh.
don't know
No.
that,
Oh,
and
something
yeah,
like
I'm just
only
like,
1% of actors make that kind of
yeah,
money, and the
yep, even
rest of
close
us
to
are,
that.
yeah, yeah, it's probably way less than that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm like, you're just talking about people that, like you just know, like I'm just,
No,
I don't know.
and
It's crazy.
people also
Yeah.
blanch it like the rates when I quote them, but I'm like, do you know that for one finished hour of work, I put at least 6 hours of work into that one
Yeah.
finished
Yeah.
hour. So,
Yep. Yep.
like this book is not just the time I spend in the booth recording it. It's all of the research and all of the prep and all the character analysis that I do beforehand, before I even
Yep.
sit in the booth, and all the correspondence with the
Yeah. Yeah.
authors
Yeah.
and getting on the same page. And there's it's I love it, but it's not just I record, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like that's not
Yeah.
it.
Well, then you got to talk about edits and, all sorts, all
Yeah.
sorts of things that you're
And then I
doing
do the
to,
pickups. I have to do all the
yep.
corrections afterward, and
Yep.
that could take a while, a while.
Yeah.
That could take
Well,
quite a while.
it's funny to me that I talk to authors that will spend 14 years on a book and they want to get paid 9.99 per Kindle book, which by the way, that's a Brandon Sanderson or Stephen King price.
I see.
Um, and but then, they won't want to pay, you or Felix or, somebody or an editor, like Sarah Chorn, what they should get, and I'm just like, I just think if you're gonna have a business, you need to be prepared for those costs.
Yeah.
And
And
that's why I'm doing certain things. So
I do offer a lower rate to independent authors. Like what I quote to
mm,
independent new authors is different than what I quote to established independent
mm,
authors who are doing well, or what
yeah,
I quote to producers. So, we all are aware and we all try, but
yeah,
I just don't want to do it for free and do all of that work and then not get anything back in return. And sometimes
yeah, yeah,
royalty
yeah,
share can happen. It is a
yeah, yeah, yeah.
gamble, but so
It's
if
a
I'm going to
gamble, yeah,
do it, I want to know I'm going to make it back. So,
yeah, yeah. No,
yeah.
totally, totally. I always tell people, pay your people. If I start a
Yeah.
restaurant, I'm gonna pay my people and take care of my people more than somebody else does. And that's what I do with my students, and they all seem much happier in my classes, than previous teachers, or something like that. And it's because I take care of
Yeah.
my people, So I just
Yeah.
my uncle, yeah, he used to run a restaurant and hotel, and he took care of his people. And he would go and find the best people, and he took care of them. And
Yeah.
they were one of the most successful, businesses around in that part of northern Ohio, and there was a reason for it. So I always tell people, take care of your people, and they'll
Yeah.
take care of you. So
Oh, we have
yeah.
to go. It's almost
Oh,
time.
it's okay. It's okay. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
shoot.
So we're right here on the last question, so that's
Okay.
totally fine. And we
Okay, great.
actually got to all the topics, so that was amazing.
Oh,
And we got a
sweet.
lot of extra stuff in there, so I'm really excited about that. I always love one where I have to. I'm like, my wife's like, "How'd it go?" I'm like, I have to go back and like write this down and listen to this and look up this. So it gave me a lot to do, which is a really good thing because I learned a lot. So do you have any news, updates, current projects like that that you can share with us?
Mm-mm. I can't
So you
because I
have a
just
bunch
started
of
working with
secret
publishers. I have a bunch
projects.
of secret projects that I'm
That's
really
even
excited
better.
about.
I love surprises.
And I guess I can say that some of them are fantasy.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
yeah, that's exciting. But yeah, nope, not allowed to. I just had to sign all those contracts.
Well, the funny thing is you would think that our viewership would go down with that, but whenever we say secret projects, it goes up. So it's hilarious to me. So I expect this to spike because you said secret and projects. So,
Excellent.
but that's awesome. Well, Amy, thank you so much. I really want to appreciate for coming on. Like I said, I learned a lot. It was awesome. If you know anybody
Yeah.
else that wants to come on, I'm hoping at one point to get like a seminar with several
Oh,
voice actors like
yeah.
yourself. Yeah, to
Okay.
come on and we can talk about a particular topic, and I'll give it to you guys
Oh,
ahead
that
of
would be
time, and
so
then
fun.
I think it'd be really fun for the winner for all of us. So
Yeah.
we'll be
Oh,
sending some invites out and things like that. So
well, thank you so much for asking me to do this. And I just wanted to say, like,
yeah,
you emailed me, you found my email on my link tree from TikTok. So, like, I'm super open to chatting with authors, emailing back and
oh,
forth.
perfect.
So please, if you have a question, like I'm speaking to your audience, I don't know
Yeah,
if any author has a question, I'm always open to them shooting me an email. It's amyhutchinsvo@gmail.com. You can listen to a ton of samples on my website, amyhutchins.com/audiobooks. Um, but yeah, I'm approachable. I'm gonna be nice. I promise.
she doesn't bite. It's okay.
Yeah. I'm not gonna bite. I'm not
uh,
gonna bite.
yeah. I just want to remind people too that Amy's her website and Links can be found in the description, so make sure you're going there and check out her website, and different service and products that she's provided. Just want to make sure we're also reviewing those. This goes back to what I've been saying, that anytime there's an Audible or, or audiobook, please review them. Audible is separate. These products are separate than Amazon and Kindle. Goodreads and Kindle are connected, but all these other products are going to be separate. So if you're on Nook or an Audible, they're separate. So please make sure
Thank
that
you.
you are pasting the review. I have them all copied. I think I have 10 more on Audible that I have to take from Audible to then go and say reviewed on Audible, but not on Amazon and Goodreads yet. So I have to still take
Right.
those this week
Thank
because
you
I
for
realized
doing
that a
that.
while back.
Because
It
I feel
is
like
like,
people only leave reviews when they want to complain, and
yeah, yeah,
because I'll
yeah.
have, like, a ton of, like, five-star reviews, because 'cause they'll maybe some people hit
Yep.
a rating, but then, like, when you
Yep.
read the reviews and it's horrible things, just
Yeah, and it
horrible,
only
so
takes
please
like
help
20
balance it out.
words. It only takes 20 words. I really liked it because these 2 things were great, and then you're done,
The
and
end,
it
yeah.
helps everybody out, so, yeah, no, totally. Well, Amy, thank you so much, I really appreciate it, I look forward to talking to you in the future and seeing more of your TikToks, but other than that, I hope you have a great rest of the day, and hopefully we'll talk soon.
Thank you so much, Daniel. You too.
Yeah, not a problem. See you later.
See ya.
Bye.